Aim Plus is basically an unfair advantage which you can gain over players and mobs. It basically helps to adjust your aim to make sure that when you're almost on target and the crosshair is nearby an enemy, it will account for this and actually hit them. Now originally this is designed to be meant for ranged PvP, particularly gun battles, modded or vanilla, and it's not really mainly for melee PvP. For an example, this would be perfect with a bow, but it wouldn't really be as great with a sword. This comes with a ton of different config options and a custom GUI to allow you to easily customize everything to your likeness. As you can see, you can completely enable and disable it, change the precision prediction, make it auto fire, only hit heads, and change the drop off arc of the arrows or projectiles that it fires. You can mess around with the distance and also toggle which mobs that you want it to track and activate on. For an example, you can also enable custom settings for players using Elytra 2. This is a really complex mod and it would be perfect for PvP, although I'm not really sure if it works on a server without the server running it, so you'll have to give it a try. I would advise against this though, because it does fall under the cheat category. It tends to be one of those features you'd probably expect to see in a modded client. The Mythic Mounts mod is a mod which basically simulates a very similar experience to what you'll have when you tame and ride horses in the vanilla game. You can basically find a set of new legendary creatures which you can use to tame and ride, and they'll accompany you across the world. There's 9 different tameable animals which can be found across a plethora of different biomes which generate across the world. This includes different flying, aquatic and different terrestrial mounts. Each of these mounts can then be equipped through their inventory with armor, and they offer additional inventory slots for personal storage. There's also cute baby variants which you may see a little bit later in the footage when I tend to spawn more than one. The config's also pretty customizable in the sense that you can change the spawn settings, the stats of the mounts themselves, and toy around with the entity's AI and behavior sets. This mod requires GeckoLib mainly for the complex animations which you'll expect to see. Most of the mounts are tamed through right clicking them with an empty hand, and you must repeatedly ride them until the mount stops bucking the player off of it. This allows you to tame it, and then you can dismount, put a saddle on it and remount it to enable full forward motion controls to ride and control it fully by the player. These tamed mounts can be ridden with the saddle, and flying ones can be repeatedly flown by pressing the jump key to regain some altitude and aim via the camera controls when flying. This is a similar case for the aquatic mounts, which gain a swim boost when you tap the jump key underwater. You can also instruct them to sit and stand, and you can breed 2 mounts of the same species if the mounts are both tamed, if they both have full health, and if they both have the appropriate breeding item which they require, which is a little bit different per type of mount. This is a really nice little mod, and all of the mounts on offer are really high quality with great appearances, and each have some really cool animations to them. There's a lot of different dinosaur mods out there, with the majority of them being enabled for Forge mode, but this is one that's available for Fabric mode, and I would personally say it's probably in its early days. This is because there are quite a few nice features in here, like a set of different armor types, but it's also not very advanced in terms of the mobs just yet, as they have models but they don't really have appropriate animations or behavior implemented right now, although this will definitely change in the future. This is currently a 1.17 mod, and since that update's so new, that's probably the reason why there's a few different unfinished features. Now there is also a beta version which adds more features for the new update, which are a little bit more experimental. For an example, you will see different textured fossils, a few different types of fossilized armor sets, spawn eggs, and a set of different dinosaurs which are to be finished. Even though this mod has more of a less complex feel to it and things are a little bit more cartoony and more simple, I do really like the style which it tends to bring. And like I said before, for Fabric players, which seem to be growing in numbers nowadays, there's not really that much on offer in terms of dinosaur mods, so this is one which you can use and test out for yourself. The Soaring Structures mod introduces some novelty structures into the game that can only be found at some of the more higher altitudes. Globetrotters of the game who want some more adventure can seek to the skies to find these structures hovering above the clouds on their own mini islands. These floating structures have different types of buildings like castles, small houses and magical huts that lie on top of small islands for players to seek and find. Every structure is inherently different in their own right, which encourages encourages more exploration, and a lot of them have a ton of different loot types which you can find, with chests with some really great items on. As you can see, I did show more than one example, and the loot in each chest is completely randomized. On some of these islands you'll find some really cool houses, and then on some of them you'll find things like farms or deep caves, which kind of emulate the normal overworld but in a small island structure, like a tiny world, a little bit like biospheres and different types of generation types from old school Minecraft. You'll also find different monsters hiding inside sometimes, and valuable resources, as the bottom of the islands, as they cone down, have a lot of stone and different ore types which you can collect too. LevelZ is a mod which adds a set of different player skills which you have to level up to actually unlock. This allows granting of gear, items, blocks, and different level perks which you gain from spending the experience which you accrue from playing the game. The default key to open up this brand new skill screen is the K key, and once you open it up you'll see a slew of different brand new skills which you haven't seen before. As you can see, there is a few different skills which are completely new, and people who have played games like RuneScape, which require many hours of grinding skills, they'll be quite familiar with a few of the skills on this list. For an example, agility, attack, archery, and a few different other abilities. This is a really nice little mod which changes the game into more of an RPG experience. As you can see at the very top of the player panel list showcasing the skills, it shows the main primary skills which the player has and the current stats in each of those skills, with the bottom part of the pane showing which levels you have in each skill, and a plus sign to spend the XP in each level to level it up. It also shows your current level, the amount of points available, and the XP till the next level in the center of the screen. The end game is pretty simple. You basically just defeat the Ender Dragon and then you collect some experience, and it rolls onto an end screen where you can see the credits of the game. Not really too exhilarating, and it's a process which the majority of players have been through many times already over, and they want a new experience. Well, DragonLoot is a similar mod which beefs up this experience a little bit by adding a brand new crafting material for the Ender Dragon which is dropped after the fight. Once you kill the dragon boss, you'll get some scales that can be used to craft a brand new set of armor, an unbreakable anvil, and far more types of loot and tools, which I'll showcase a little bit in the following clips. You basically use an upgrade station to upgrade all of the different armor pieces and tools. Basically any kind of netherite armor, tool or weapon can be upgraded along with one dragon scale in the upgrade station, which can then give you a dragon scale piece of armor. If you have a look at the dragon scale loot, it really reminds you of the dragon scale armor from Skyrim, and I'm sure this was one of the main inspirations, of course with the colour of it being black to correspond to the colour of the Ender Dragon. It's also very clear that Skyrim was a huge inspiration for this mod because the actual logo is the Skyrim mod edited to appear like the Ender Dragon. This is a really nice mod and it adds some super cool features. If you're wondering what the point of having the dragon scale anvil is, it's basically the same as the normal anvil, but it has more durability and it doesn't break. For people trying to upgrade with a normal anvil, you will need the smithing table, which is of course what I was referring to when I said the upgrade station. This allows you to put the dragon scale into the ore piece and the netherite piece in the armor slot or any other tool or weapon, and then in the output slot you'll get the upgraded piece. When people think of very simple games, Minecraft is definitely one of the top of the list. If you don't have shaders per se, then you're just in for a normal standard simple 8-bit experience with low tier graphics and a simple set of gameplay mechanics. Well, by using the physics mod, you can overhaul the entire game by adding a brand new physics engine, or at least a physics system coded into Fabric using this mod. For an example, this mod adds a slew of different features, one being a system where dropped items are tossed from the player and then land on the floor with physics systems with a thrown animation and a wobble when they hit the ground. These are basically called fake item physics, and they can be disabled or enabled if you like them or not. It's very similar to one of those mods where you drop items on the floor and then right click them to pick them up, but it's a little bit different and it's more realistic. The physics engine also supports mainly blocks. For an example, if you use TNT on blocks, the blocks will completely erupt, scatter, and then disappear and fade out of the world to prevent further lag. This really causes performance hitches and drops to your FPS if you use a lot of TNT or make sure the physics activate on a lot of different blocks, so you'll need a good system if you want to experiment with this to the furthest extent. As for the support for mobs, there's also crazy new ragdoll physics where if you kill a mob it will fall down as a ragdoll, which you can then push with the player, and it also flows down water, so if you kill a skeleton and then kick it into the ocean, it will glide down the river like it would in normal life. This is a really cool realistic mod. One of my favourite features is the effect on the block when you mine the bottom block. For an example, if you're at the bottom of a cliff or inside a cave and you mine a supporting block, all of the blocks above it will come tumbling down and it will literally cave in, with all the blocks scattering and falling down below. The block break animation is also really nice, as it will break into different pieces which then crumble and can be pushed by the player, or crumble further if the player drops on them or pushes them with his character. To get the most out of the EnvironmentZ mod, you basically need to be in the right corresponding biome. This mod adds harsh environmental behaviors to the game, which keeps the area cool in hot weathers and warm in cold biomes. For an example, if the temperature gets down to 0 degrees, the player will start freezing if you're not protected against the cold. Whereas if the temperature is too hot, you have to make sure to wear no armor or protect yourself in a different way to the heat to prevent overheating. For an example, you can warm up at a cozy fireplace or keep calm. This is also a great mod to run alongside the dehydration mod if you want some more serious survival mechanics to run alongside it at the same time. You can also craft out of stone using a saw, a set of stones which you can then heat using coal in a furnace, which creates heated stones which you can hold right click on to warm up the player. You can also craft a set of leather armor, or you can insulate a current set of armor, for an example diamond, and mix it with polar bear fur in a smithing's table to actually make insulated armor for the cold weather. There's a few different systems and mechanics in this mod which makes survival a little bit more realistic and a little bit more harsh for the player. Spirit is a mod which is inspired by Soul Shards, which is a mod for Forge. This allows you to create a crystal which captures the souls of mobs to use in the new Soul Cage item to spawn duplicates of these mobs, in a very similar fashion to how normal spawners work. The first step is to make a multi-block piece out of a piece of soul soil, which is surrounded by 4 warped warp blocks. You then use a flint and tinder to light the soul sand on fire and throw an amethyst cluster into the soul fire to create a soul crystal. The warped warp blocks in the amethyst cluster will then be consumed upon creation during this process. If you break a spawner with a pickaxe, you can obtain a broken spawner. You can then use this broken spawner on top of a soul fire by throwing it in to create a soul cage item to be used in this process, along with the captured mobs. Using the soul crystal, you can use these to spawn duplicates. This is a simple system which kinda coincides with the whole magic idea of being a necromancer. Many of us have created a lot of different videos on terrain generation mods in the past few months. It's an idea which has become increasingly more popular, and it's one idea which I utilised a few months ago to show off a really nice Forge mod which generated some awesome terrain. This was before the 1.18 and 1.17 Caves and Cliffs update features in the game. Now Terrelith is a little bit different because even though it's technically packaged as a fabric mod, it's actually a data pack which is designed to overhaul the overworld with brand new biomes and cave systems. It accomplishes this somehow without adding any new blocks, which makes it fully compatible with vanilla clients too when you switch over the worlds. This means if you stop using fabric and send over the world to a normal client, they can use the world without any problems. This is the culmination of nearly a year of work and over 500 hours of effort and research on the mod maker's part. Terrelith adds over 65 brand new biomes, as well as updating almost every single pre-existing one with some new and improved features. For an example, lush caves and dripstone caves have been added to the generation, with many of their new blocks and features spawning in the overworld in brand new biomes, not just underground. This makes for some crazy world building and exploring and generation on the exterior and interior of the world and deep down underground. Some of the generation is not as impressive as some of the core terrain generation mods, but for a set of data packs, the amount of change this makes to the world is pretty crazy. I noticed that a lot of the biomes that connect to swamp biomes and a lot of forest biomes are completely changed to how they usually are, and they look really awesome. Especially biomes which now spawn made out of gravel and diorite, they really blend into the world well. And the very deep terrains which you'll experience, and the new really deep ravines you'll experience and underwater ravines using this set of data packs is a really cool experience which you really need to try.